Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Joy and Gratitude, where we like to untangle ourselves from everything that keeps us all awake at night. Anyway, I'm Nio Queiro.
And I'm Beth Mercurio, and welcome back.
Yes.
So, Nia, what is going on with you? What can we share with our friends in this community that's happened in the past week or so? Anything that's come to mind for you that we would love to share and start talking about?
Absolutely. For me, I had the most amazing pleasure this week that just passed. I got to see my son perform. And I had never seen him perform live. I mean, I've seen him on video and different things, but it was magical. It was just, you know, parents, we go into this whole proud and so on, but when they're really good, it blows your mind.
That's
and
amazing.
and I had that opportunity and to see other people react to the talent that he brought to them. And I started thinking about how important it is for us to give of our talents and to be
Mm,
grateful that we have them. Here he was, and I don't think he even has an understanding on how he was impacting others that were in his audience. I saw some people cheer, I saw some others cry at the words of his song. And it was literally a moment of surrealness, of being able to kind of float around and seeing how his talent made a difference in someone else's life. And I ask you, as we every day are trying to be better for ourselves, I really want to lean into what do we bring in for others? How do we make a difference in others?
I love that. Before we do that, do you mind just sharing a little bit more about what kind of a performance it was, just so
Oh,
that people can
sure.
kind of
Absolutely.
visualize what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. So my son actually raps. He's been doing it, oh my gosh, all the way from high school. And he has his own persona, Logan X. And please look that up on Instagram and TikTok. Um, and he just, what I love about his rapping is you understand the words and the messages are
Mm,
really about overcoming and dealing with very real things in life. So he puts his heart out on the sleeve, and it was an open mic in Union City, New Jersey. I got the opportunity to visit out back to my Jersey roots, which was awesome. And beautiful little place. It's kind of a studio, and it was phenomenal. It was just that all different talents. Some people were doing poetry, some people were doing different things,
mm,
but he went and he does kind of a mix of poetry and rap. He does all his own music in the background, and it's just the layers of seeing his talent, his musical talent, his rapping talent, his ability to um, take words and bring them to life with imagery.
mm.
It phenomenal, just phenomenal.
Ah, amazing. Thank you. I just I felt like people would probably be really intrigued for like what kind of beautiful experience you had. So thanks for sharing that. And I think I love this idea of open mic. So you just said, he chose to go to an open mic. I mean, think about that. I think for a lot of people, that shows tremendous courage, right? It's putting yourself out there and it's leaning in and being willing to try something new, maybe out of your comfort zone a little bit in front of other people. And I think that ties into what you wanted to talk about a little bit. What is our thing? Like, do we know what our thing is? And how can we start to identify it if we don't know what it is? And this idea of lean in, I know that's not a new term, it's been thrown around a lot, but I'm kind of loving it because I had sort of a I'm I've had sort of a tough week where I'm still managing the sandwich years, as we call them, around managing parents' health and children. And I just had this moment where I just was like, it's too much. Like I'm being asked to do too many things, and I had this desire to kind of like go inward. And last night I woke up in the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep, you know. You were talking about what, being untangling, and our purpose of part of our purpose of this podcast is sort of allowing people to think about and talk openly about the things that keep them up at night, the things that get them tangled up, right? It was a perfect start to this particular episode. So that's what I was doing. I was up in the middle of the night, trying to think about all the things I could do, the fixer in me, and wanted to make everything better. And I watched myself sort of go, wait a minute, like your instinct is to withdraw right now. Like I want to withdraw, go inward, say it's too much, do escapism. And I realized that in that moment, I was like, oh no, I'm supposed to lean in right now. Like as hard as it is, like every instinct that I have is to withdraw and protect. And I know that I'm actually supposed to do the opposite and really lean in and get really uncomfortable, and while doing that, push myself.
Mhm.
And so I love this idea of what is our purpose? Like, what is it that we're supposed to bring? What are our talents? And they can be as simple as, for me, I'm really starting to have to play with and push my comfort zone around staying when things are hard, and not withdrawing and not retracting, but actually realizing it's in those moments that I need to lean in, and that part of what I think I can bring to the world is staying in the mix, staying in the conversation, saying some of the harder things that maybe are uncomfortable, and allowing people the space, whether it be my parents, whether it be friends, like people in my community, like having the dialogue and staying in conversation. And that sounds sort of like an interesting talent, but I do think
Oh,
it's a talent, right? And that I really,
absolutely. It is a
yeah.
major talent because so many of us, I mean, as we look at our family dynamics, our business dynamics, what is the one thing that usually destroys a relationship? And that is when we withdraw, when we
Yeah.
stop speaking, when we are not willing to have those conversations. So that is a major talent to create a safe place that people can say and have the conversation of what they're feeling. That's a superpower. It's beyond talent. it's, and I want to go back to something that you said. Right now, you're doing so much. You're caring for your parents, you're caring for your kids, your family. There is something about women that I have been reading on, and you probably have heard this phrase before, kin keeping. And kin keeping is what we do to keep our kin, our family, together. And that is what we do during the holidays. We make the house look festive and we create the experience and we create the food and we create the doing packages, handling everything, knowing that our husband's not going to do the gifts. So we take care of the gifts for the kids, their parents, and so on. And we as women are forever in the state of action.
Mm.
And that's okay because it is a talent. It's what keeps our families together. But at the same time, as we are giving, we also need to know that to be able to do it, we must give to ourselves. So, yes, you definitely have to stay in. That is essential. Because perseverance and discipline is what makes us be able to do everything in life. But at the same
Mm.
time, you have to take that time to exhale. And even as we care for those we love, we have to give ourselves that hour to reflect, do your meditation. For God's sakes, take a walk, or sometimes just do something as simple as take a shower. Uh, which sometimes we don't have the
Yes,
time to do. Let's just be real.
it's true. No, it's so true. I think this idea of being in constant state of action, and then choosing the sometimes hard path of staying in conversation. I think let's stick with that for a minute, and I would love to talk a little bit about, like, what advice could we give our listeners around what that could look like? So you just put some out there, you sort of said, create a little space for yourself, whether that be take that shower before you run off to go do something else or get that walk in. And so I do think it's a little bit about that self love and prioritization. And some people may not even know what that is yet. So when we talk about talent or understanding our talents, and when we talk about really knowing how to care for ourselves such that we can stay in action and stay in conversation. I think it's so important because I'm realizing, like, my choice to say, I'm going to lean in and I'm not going to withdraw, even though like every part of me wants to withdraw,
Mhm.
right? You're right. It's a choice to stay in action. It's a choice to stay in conversation. But to do that well, I actually need to first take care of myself. So, does that mean I need to go for a walk? I need to rehearse in some way the conversation that maybe is going to be hard for me to have with my parents around some additional care, right? They need some additional care and support in their lives. They don't really want it. You can imagine, like, that's not what they want. They want to continue to be independent, but they're not really able to be. And so instead of just like rushing in, um, being thoughtful around that and resourcing myself to be able to show up as like the daughter that I want to show up as, it's a huge difference. So it's true. It's like I'm going to take a little time to make sure that I feel really solid in what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it with love and compassion and concern and be in service to them. This isn't about like me, it's about like how do we get them the support that they need. And so all of that preparation goes into staying in action and staying in the conversation from a place of support and service to others. And that is what you said, bringing our talents to other people takes this real understanding of ourselves. So I don't know, when I say that, just like I'm trying to think through how to get people to understand what it is that I know what it is that I need, right? I need a walk in the woods, some time alone, and for me, I practice and prep, like, what am I gonna say? And if it doesn't land right, then I try to reframe it so that I feel really good about how I'm showing up, and that takes some time. So I give myself that time. I have to give myself that time, or I could show up in a way that really backfires and I end up becoming defensive, and then things spiral and I get really tangled. Instead of
Yeah.
untangling, I'm like more tangled, you know?
Well, se several things.
Yeah.
It's all about choice. You said it. You made the choice to stay in, right? You're making all these choices. I think the reason that people struggle with self-care is it really makes you have to deal with yourself. And what I mean by that, we always have an excuse why we don't do it. And I remember when I started coaching, my coach actually said to me, "I can't meditate. I want you to coach me into meditation." And I explained to her that meditation isn't sitting around and going and all that stuff. Meditation can take many forms. Meditation can be music. It could be a different thing. But before you get there, you have to make the choice of designating the time for you. And that means the easiest way to do it, set your alarm 20 minutes earlier
Mm,
and
interesting.
give yourself 20 minutes. Start small, 20 minutes. That when you wake up in focus for yourself. If you're a
I
mom,
love that.
that can mean 20 minutes in the bathroom alone and with the door closed and no kid can get in because they're
Yeah.
still sleeping. But 20 minutes to do whatever serves you. And if that serving is put on your sweats and take a walk, knock yourself out. That's between you and self because you know what makes you feel good. Because this is really what it is to take that those minutes and make you feel empowered to handle how am I going to go to my parents and tell them they need an aid. And maybe during that time that you have that freedom of no noise, nobody's
Mm,
talking to you, nobody's taking your your need to do something. In those 20 minutes, you may can't come up with the idea of maybe I introduce this person part-time to just help a little so that they can develop a relationship. You see, the ideas come, you know, eh, we both were in
yes.
corporate America. And the higher you go in corporate America, you really are only there to make decisions. You don't make 1,000 decisions a day. You make a few decisions, but they're so important. It's the same with your life. We make a few decisions that are major, but we got to be able to be whole to make those decisions. So giving yourself 20 minutes, and I challenge the audience, 20 minutes to yourself, having clear time. And let it be something that you are not engaged in social media. You're not engaged in an external stimulant. Let it be maybe 20 minutes that you read the chapter of that book that you've been dying to
Mm,
read and open your mind to a new perspective. 20 minutes that you listen to. For me, it would be an aria, or it would be, I'm a geek of classical music. So,
awesome.
for me, it's all about classical music, whether it's, an opera or listening to some form of classical. It doesn't matter. It could be hip hop, it could be country, it could be 20 minutes of you journaling. It doesn't matter, but it's your 20 minutes and it's non negotiable because you've
Yeah, I
made
love
the
it.
choice to give yourself the time to be able to be prepared for the day and be able to be prepared for decisions because
Well,
that's what we're talking
it's
about.
yeah, and it's so funny. You just reminding me. I remember a distinct conversation with a client of mine in coaching session where we came up with this mantra, which can often help, right? So we talk about like what is it that can remind you in these moments, like, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to take care of myself first, right? Even if it's because I love your 20-minute idea, but like if something happens in the middle of the day, you may still need to go do that, right? And
Right.
and be prepared to show up the way you want. So whenever it happens, if you're aware and tuned in, and the mantra we came up with was you need to turn it off to turn it on.
Yep.
And it's this like this moment of like you got to turn it off because in that spaciousness, whatever it looks like and whatever form, and I guess I would, like you said, I would offer offer to our listeners, if you don't know what that is yet, take some time to figure that out, right? Is it what really gives you energy? What makes you feel like you can be calm and spacious and maybe make a different choice? Because we know that when we get away from all of the noise and when we choose ourselves and we turn it off, it's in those moments that we are able to create the spaciousness we need to make better choices, to see more possibility. We can't even see possibility when you're spinning and
Hmm.
you're entangled up, right? All of a sudden things come to you and you think, well, I could say it that way, or I could do it this way, or maybe there's another option.
Yeah.
Like, why have I told myself there's only this option? And all of a sudden, creativity sort of blossoms, right? We know that with spaciousness comes creativity. So when we create an off mode that's just for us, when we turn it off, then we're able to turn it on with a whole new level of beauty and possibility and opportunity that allows us to show up differently, to create a different environment or perspective, like you said. So I love this idea of knowing what it is for us to turn it off. What does it look like to turn it off? And then making that choice. And like I said, for me, that was watching myself know that I was in the moment of trying to withdraw and going like, oh, whoa, wait, that's my mantra moment. Oh, you need to turn it off, go take care of yourself, to stay in it and turn it on again from a place that's resourced. And I think we all, in some ways, I know we started to talk about talent in the beginning.
Yeah.
In some ways, like that's the most important talent. And then from there, we can start to really see where we blossom. We can see where, like, we're able to light up a room or bring joy or energy to someone through our music or through whatever it is that we can bring and serve the world. And so I almost feel like we actually start at the root, which is, do we even know what that is? Because I would say I didn't know what that was until relatively recently, where I had to really slow myself down. We've talked about that and we'll continue to talk about it, but like slowing down, turning off so that I could really see, like, oh, it's in this space where people are saying, and maybe this is another thing to sort of offer to our listeners is this idea of when somebody said to your son, that was amazing, or that really moved me, or I was really impacted by that. Like, how did he react to that? And could he let that sink in? And can we tune into the moments where people do say to you, like each one of us as individuals, wow, you're really good at that, or that really moved me, or I really needed that, or I was impressed. And instead of just kind of assuming, like, oh, that's what everybody does, or everybody has that, or whatever, like actually really hearing that and going, oh, maybe I do this differently, or maybe I have some sort of beautiful talent or skill in this space, and like
Yes.
let that sink in.
And that is so important. Guys, please accept the thank you, accept the compliment. We are a bank. Your brain will adopt what it listens to.
Mm,
So when someone gives you a compliment because you have impacted them in any way, or gives you a compliment because you look good, or gives you a compliment because they enjoyed your company, say thank you and let your brain accept that as a part of you. Because as we're all looking for space and the empowerment to exercise choice and deliver our talent and also just get things done as
mm,
our matriarchs that we often are, to go out and take care of our families and take care of the things that we want our families to be in the future, and we shepherd them in doing so. We first have to fill the bank. So
mm,
that's really important. And how, he was very accepting and he was very
mm,
supportive of those that said really kind things after he got off stage. And I was proud of him for that, because it's so easy for us to immediately not accept the situation and say, oh, no, I'm okay, and so on. But I'd like for us to try something new and try a new segment. And in this segment, I'd like to bring my Joy Note playlist
mm.
of the day, and may
Amazing.
and that I have two songs. The first
Alrighty.
song is Young Lion by Sade. And it's a beautiful,
Mm,
so I love Sade. She only brings out music 6 to 10 years, and we've been waiting 6 years to hear this song. Um, but it is a song to her son. And I
mm,
share this song with my son. And it's a song that she's saying, I'm here for you. And I wish I would have known all that you've gone through,
mm,
but I'm here for you and you can count on me. And I just thought it was very appropriate for that blessing that I had of seeing him perform. And the second song that I have, based on our conversation, is Church Doors by Yolanda Adams. And this song talks about, in all your talents, in all you do, you bring it to the doors of the church and you celebrate that
mm.
God has blessed you with these talents. And these are the two songs for this week. What are your gratitude rocks that you could share?
Yeah, so I love this idea of just tying in joy and gratitude into all that we're talking about and how it weaves through everything that we talk about. Your joy notes is a perfect example. So, uh, we've talked about it, and I shared sort of how I've done it with my family. That we're going to do it right now, and let's see what it is. What are we going to pull out for today? All right. Today's gratitude rock is strength. Strength. And
Beautiful.
I love it, and I think, again, no surprise. And if people are listening, it's this beautiful, bright, vibrant orange. And I think the word vibrant and strength are connected to what we've talked about today, which is like our own strength and our inner strength. And it's through our inner strength that we can make sure that we understand our talents, make sure that we bring our talents to the world. So you mentioned church doors, which I love. And I would just extend that to be all community, right? Like church being the biggest community, like
Absolutely.
universe.
Mhm.
So for people to think of it in that context. And I guess I would just ask our listeners to think about their own strength. Like what when we call up this word strength, like what comes up for you? It's almost perfect. Like it's like what is your strength? Where do you believe you have strength? And maybe where do you believe you would like to be stronger? And if you take some time to just reflect on that, it'd be pretty beautiful because it ties right into understanding our talents, realizing where we're maybe tangled, and using our inner strength and our ability to prioritize and resource ourselves to get through.
Absolutely. And the fact of the matter is, we have talent that gives us the strength to persevere. And staying focused is what we have been talking about today with talent, because everything wraps into joy and gratitude. Thank you for coming along and untangling with us.